This is Carl the Cobra Froch, and you're watching Lights Out.
This is Faisal for Lights Out, proudly sponsored by Spartans Law. We're here for the Joe Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang 2 press conference. Delighted to be joined by Adam Moralle, a man who I've already bumped into on the train on the way here. Adam, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Right, Adam, I asked you as we were getting off the train, are you nervous for this fight on Saturday night? You said in any of the fights that I've done with my fighters, I'm not nervous, but this one, there are nerves ringing around the camp. There will be nerves.
Night when that first bell rings, yeah, I'm not normally nervous for the fights. I'm really calm now, but it's all on the line on Saturday. And when that first bell rings, yeah, I'll be nervous for sure.
It really is the biggest fight of Joe Joyce's career. But what does a win do for Joe on Saturday night? But also, what does a defeat do for him?
I mean, look, a win puts him right in the world title mix. He's WBO interim champion. There's a lot of stuff going on with Undisputed at the moment, and because there's a lot of stuff going on with Undisputed, I think that means the winner of this fight could be elevated. And if they're elevated, they're a full world champion. So we, Team Joyce, we view this as a world title fight.
What does Joe Joyce have to do different in this fight? We saw how well Zhilei Zhang set up in the first fight. Differently, how does Joe approach this on Saturday night, Adam?
He's a top-class operator, Zhilei Zhang. And as I was just talking to someone else, I think both of them do a limited amount of things very, very well. And I think now that they've met and now that they've fought, I think it's going to be a slightly different fight. We know what to expect from Zhang. Joe's got to cope with the southpaw style. He's got to put a dent in Zhang. He's got the best work rate in the whole division, but it's no point throwing 120 punches around if they aren't putting a dent in Zhang. So we want more power, more strength, and you're going to see that on Saturday night, and you're going to see the weigh-in tomorrow. A different Joe Joyce is coming for this fight.
I mean, stylistically wise, what does Joe do different in this fight? Because we saw how the first fight went. We know what Zhilei Zhang has to do, but Joe's never been in this situation where he might have to do something differently. So can you expect a different setup in terms of style-wise on Saturday night, Adam?
Yeah, look, Joe has come out and publicly said I wouldn't say he struggles, but the southpaw style's different. He's only fought Lemroy Thomas as a southpaw in his pro career. And so with orthodox, Joe gets into his juggernaut style, and you know what Joe Joyce is. He's a guy that walks forward. He's a guy with incredible punch output. And he's not the world's most technical heavyweight boxer. But he has to understand some real basics about fighting a southpaw that are now, I would say, in his programming. So Joe takes a while to get something, but once he's got it, it's locked in. And he's got it now. He's locked in. I'm really excited about Saturday, actually, for people to see his improvements and what failure can do to someone, and how failure is the start of making those improvements.
What have you noticed differently about Joe in this camp, and especially with his preparation going into his rematch, Adam?
I mean, look, Joe's always locked in. He's always, he always takes everything seriously. But I've got the vibe of a Dubois, a Parker, knowing that everything's on the line, knowing that... Just remember last time when he fought Zhang, it was effectively a quote-unquote keep busy for his mandatory. Now, this is a world title fight. Everything's on the line. His level of focus is really, really high, and his level of commitment is always high. I mean, Joe's a real athlete, professional athlete. But right now, this guy's absolutely at the top of his game. He's physically at the top of his game. No complaints. Joe Joyce on Saturday night. If Joe Joyce, heaven forbid, doesn't win on Saturday night, it's not because of any of his preparation. It's not because he's in the best shape.
I mean, you said that this fight leads to potential world title fights, or maybe the Joshuas, the Wilders. Definitely, the winner who wins this fight elevates onto the next level. But does a defeat could it signal the end for Joe Joyce, or regardless of what happens on Saturday night, will Joe Joyce continue even if he does lose this fight on Saturday night, Adam?
Look, I think this fight's going to be a great fight on Saturday night, and I think that Joe Joyce losing on Saturday night isn't the end of his career. That's overly dramatic. It may well be the end of his world title aspirations for a while. I think it would probably take 12 to 24 months for kind of a young contender to want to fight him as maybe a voluntary, but it's going to be incredibly difficult to get him back in a mandatory spot. Because remember, Joe Joyce, win or lose Saturday night, is still always going to be in the Who Needs Him club. A fight with Joe Joyce is going to be punishing and terrorising on anyone. So that's what makes it so difficult with Joe, and that's what's made it so difficult to get him into that mandatory slot. No one has ever wanted to fight Joe Joyce. No one's ever gone, I want to fight him. He's a incredibly difficult boxer to face. So I think defeat makes world titles very difficult, but I think it's going to be a great fight, and I think Joe will have a career afterwards. You know, Derek Chisora's lost 13 times. Hasn't really affected his marketability, has it?
Well, obviously we've spoken about what's next for Joe Joyce, and then we look at the world champion Tyson Fury, the other world champion Oleksandr Usyk. I mean, do we need to look at this situation with Joe Joyce and Tyson Fury, given the fact that they're promoted by Frank Warren, they're both with Queensberry? Do you think that that's an easier fight to make than the one with Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk?
Yeah, it's easier. It's definitely easier for the Warrens to make it because they're dealing in house. I think was Undisputed not on the line, Fury Joyce would get made very easily. It's the natural next fight, whether it gets made in Saudi, the UK, whatever. After this fight, Fury Joyce would get made easily. But we haven't had an undisputed champion for 20, 30 years, whatever the number is. There's going to be a huge amount of attention on that, and being realistic, there's going to be a lot of those machinations that occur between now and probably the end of the year. So I think the winner of this fight, Joyce, is not going to fight between now and the end of the year, and we're going to have to wait and see.
There's a lot of question marks surrounding over what Oleksandr Usyk does next. We know Frank Warren and Daniel Dubois have made an appeal due to what happened in the fight with the whole sort of low blow gate, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, Oleksandr Usyk, what do you think his next move is to be? And could potentially Joe Joyce, if he gets to win on Saturday night, maybe look to challenge Oleksandr Usyk for those unified titles?
I mean, look, that's the mandatory, right? The mandatory champion is... the champion's Usyk. I think Usyk should face his IBF mandatory. That's what he should do, right? He's supposed to fight Filip Hrgović, and he hasn't fought him. And I don't know why that hasn't been ordered. He should fight him. I know they're talking about undisputed, but we've got to push on with the mandatories. When this fight is over, I'm going to be asking the WBO to push forward with Joe Joyce's mandatory.
A lot of people have obviously given their opinion on Tyson Fury's next move, which is his fight with Francis Ngannou. Whether you're a fan of it or not, entirely up to you. People are entitled to their opinions, but a guy who's vented his frustration over social media quite a lot is Carl Froch. He's also questioned Tyson Fury's choices in terms of the world champions he's fought, and he compared his resume to Tyson Fury's. I mean, do you think it's fair comments what Carl Froch was saying, or do you think it was a bit slightly harsh?
Look, I think everyone's got to look after themselves, haven't they, in their future, and they've got to remember that a boxer is primarily a boxer to earn a living for his family. Tyson Fury's a super sharp businessman. He's making lots of money, and he's doing it in a way where he increases his global fame, and he gets more followers, and he can pick and choose who he fights. You know, when you put in the hard work, as he has over many, many years, to get to the top, you pick and choose. Everyone's going to tune in to watch Fury and Ngannou. You will, I'm sure the viewers of this video will. So he's a very intelligent guy. And no, I wouldn't criticise him at all. I mean, look, boxing fans would like to have an argument about who's got the best resume at some point, but he's got to look after himself and his family. And once he's done that, yeah, I want to see him fight Joe Joyce. I think he should fight Joe Joyce. I think that's a tremendous fight. I want to see him fight Usyk, and I want to see him fight AJ. As a fan, I want to see those fights, and I hope he delivers them.
Before I let you go, just a quick update on the rest of your stable. Tommy Fletcher obviously features on this card as well. Hopefully a good learning curve for him on Saturday night. But can you give us an update on the likes of the Johnny Fishers, and a guy that whom I'm a huge fan of is Florian Mark, who just makes a lot of noise everywhere he goes.
Florian just had a great win over Dylan Moralle in 54 seconds. Hopefully he'll be out again by the end of the year with Sky. And then we want big fights, looking at names like Josh Kelly. We want to talk to Matchroom about Conor Benn. Like big fights of Florian. I think that's the time for him now. Lerone Richards is going to be out very soon, announcing a new promotional deal for him, which I'm really excited about. Truly world level guy. Johnny Fisher had a bit of a very minor hand complaint, but he's back in training now, looking to get him out by the end of the year. Junaid Boston, October 7th. Guido Vianello, 14th of October. Looking to put Sol Dakers in a big fight before the end of the year. A heavyweight that's kind of going under the radar, but in my opinion, outside of the very top boys, is probably the best of that heavyweight crop of Adeleye, Wardley, Clark. I think Dakers is the top of that. John Hedges coming back. I've probably forgotten someone. We've got a new signing, Nicola Bark, about to announce a new promoter, which is very exciting. So lots of activity between now and the end of the year.
Okay, Adam Moralle, a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for your time. Wish you the best of luck on Saturday night.
Thank you.